All right. I believe we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Libronauts Book Club book discussion, where today we are going to talk about Changing All Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. Tonight with me, I have.
That was so good.
Yeah, it looks like a very intimidating name, but I love saying it. It just rolls off the tongue so nicely.
Yeah, that's where I really appreciate, audiobooks too,
Mhm.
when they say the author's name, because 'cause you're like, "That I was overcomplicating that in my brain."
Yep. So yeah, tonight I have Sam with me as my co-host. She read the book with me. So we will be chatting about that tonight. So Sam, do you want to give us a little introduction? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Sam. My YouTube channel, Instagram, and TikTok are all A Spark of Sam, and it's about, like, all the things that bring a spark into my life, which could be crafting, travel, gardening, bookish stuff. It's kinda chaotic. I'm kind of chaotic. Uh But I also do have a bi-monthly, YouTube book club that I do with my friend April. It's called Tales of Starlight Book Club. We do it predominantly on my YouTube channel, and we'll actually be discussing on Monday Metal Slinger, um, which I have to start that now.
Busy week ahead.
But I read literally everything. There aren't too many things I won't try, and especially if I can get it in an audiobook, then I'll definitely give it a go. So,
Awesome.
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. All righty. If anybody is watching, go ahead and let us know in the comments if you did read the book and what you rated it. Um, and then in the meantime, I'll just basically give a spoiler-free synopsis as best as I can. This book has a very complicated plot, I think. It's very dystopian. It takes place in a version of the United States where um, certain prisoners are offered this option. You can either remain in prison or you can participate in the CAPE program. And what this CAPE program is, it's basically you're a contestant and you fight to the death, very much like a gladiator type scene. Um, you can go up in ranks depending on how many people you have killed. So obviously, if you're like undefeated, then you're going to excel in ranking, and you can eventually earn your freedom back into the world. It is televised, so very much like Hunger Games. People can watch. I guess I'm not sure if there's like I think there are like people like in the stands in a way that are
That's what
there.
it sounded like in some of the scenes, yeah, is that you can attend, you can get tickets to
Oh,
watch, and then it was like a pay-per-view as well.
right. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like it's a huge event that like a lot of people watch either for entertainment or because they're appalled and they're protesting it. So yeah, very interesting and also very similar to Hunger Games. People can sponsor contestants
Mhm.
and send them things and they can earn what are called blood points. So it's basically some kind of monetary um, thing that they can use to exchange for food or weapons or, lots of different things. So yeah, there's a lot of like social injustice themes in here. Many of the primary characters are Black Americans, and there's a lot of footnotes in here too that actually give some context around some of the events happening in the book that are based in real world happenings, especially like legal cases, court cases, things like that. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the book. So this is a debut novel for the author, but he has written a short story collection called Friday Black, which came out, I don't know, like within the last 5 years, I want to say. I have read that and I did mostly enjoy it. A lot of the stories, um, they're very speculative. It's like speculative kind of horror as well.
Mm,
But you have not read that. Is that correct, Sam?
I have not.
Okay. Yeah, there's one of the stories actually, the title story, so Friday Black, it's like this guy and he works at some retail place and he's like selling coats and there's all these different people that come in to try to like they're looking for a coat to buy. I can't remember what ends up happening, but it's very strange.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and then there's like another one where something about like a huge hairy spider comes to mind. And I can't remember what that one is
Isn't
about
that
either.
weird how you could, like, remember, like, little parts, but not how they fit together when it comes to certain stories?
Yeah, yeah. So so yeah, I do like this author's writing. I think his written word is very well put together. Definitely very creative stories, lots of detail. Um, so yeah, if anyone is looking for more by this author, I would definitely recommend that one. It has a cool cover too. Okay, so what are 3 words that you would use, to describe this book? I need to think of mine, so I'll let you go first.
You even gave me a heads up, and I have, like, all the words and no words.
Mhm,
I definitely felt heavy.
mhm,
It was actually a running joke with my husband and I, because every time I would put it down, I was like, "That was heavy." And he's like, "Is the book heavy? Is it heavy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is. I don't know how else to describe it except it heavy."
mhm,
Um, Powerful,
mhm. Oh, that's
um, and I mean, I wanna say, like, enlightening, even though there was a lot of things I actually already like, with the footnotes, like you were saying, I actually knew a lot of them already, but it's still there were some things that I felt very enlightened on.
okay. Those are good ones, especially powerful. That's, I think, very accurate for sure. So I think mine would have to be violent. This book
Mhm.
is very violent.
Very from the get-go.
Oh, yeah, like the prologue, the very opening scene, something happens and you're just like, "Oh, okay, that's what this book's gonna be like. Okay, gotcha." So yeah, violent, raw, like, it's
Mhm.
so real. Like,
Yes.
there's no sugarcoating anything, there's no rose-colored glasses, nothing. It is just it's very, very raw and true to, like, human nature.
Mhm.
And then a 3rd one, oh my gosh. What would be a word for, you know, people that, like, protest against social injustice? Like, what would that be called? I'm completely blanking.
Um, I'm not thinking of the word either.
Let me see. One of the things that I highlighted kinda talks about it, but I'm not seeing, like, one word that I could use. Dang.
I mean, I would almost say, like yeah, is there, like, uh, a word for, protesting without, like you know what I mean? That it's
Yeah,
actually, like,
yeah.
a
I don't know,
noun?
but whatever word encompasses the idea of protesting against something that seems morally unethical and unjust. So whatever that word is,
I was gonna say,
that's
I'm sure there's a good word out there.
it's gotta be, yeah, for sure. So without mentioning your rating, what were your overall thoughts of this book?
I really enjoyed it, and honestly, that feels wrong to say because this book, like, it's brutal, um, and as someone who, like, watches, this was, like, very specific on things that I do watch, my husband and I do watch a lot of prison shows
Okay.
and a lot of gladiator shows, and for me, it, like it felt very realistic. It
Yeah.
didn't feel, like fiction at all. Um, and I always felt something every time I picked the book up, and I was telling Elise before we got on that I was tandem reading it, and then I was just struggling to, like, sit there with my thoughts every time that I just had to listen to it while I worked on something else, because to me, it made me feel very emotional, and that to me, I like it, even if it's uncomfortable feelings, even though I don't always like what's being discussed. I do think, like you said, raw,
Mhm.
is a great way to show like, represent this book, and I like feeling emotions and kind of analyzing, like, "Why do we do this? Is this okay? Is that how does this fit with the world?" And all of those type of things, so I enjoyed it. The characters were a lot,
Mhm.
at times. I did struggle, especially once I stopped, tandem reading, trying to remember, like I made a note card with all the characters in the beginning, and then they were still adding characters on in the
Mhm.
middle, so that was kind of difficult for me, but I liked the different point of views we got
Okay.
and how the author wrote them differently, and I did enjoy that.
Yeah. So there were obviously Thurwar and Stax,
Mhm.
and then the Hendrix singer guy and
Mhm.
the Simon J something or other. And then there was Mari, who was the daughter of one of the
Sun
other contestants.
Sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this
then
was just I know it's hard, it's probably can't really see, but these are
oh,
just
wow.
characters, and that was only for, like, a third of the book.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of characters.
Yeah. Um, and then who was the couple? Like Emily and Will or something like that?
Yes.
So when they were and FYI, guys, we are gonna start getting into some spoilery territory, so, whether you're here now or watching later, if you've not read the book, don't wanna be spoiled, maybe go read it and then come back. Um, when Emily and Will were watching and he was, like, trying to get her into it,
Mhm.
at one point in the story, it sounded like what they were watching, which was a past season, was the Hendrix singer
Mhm.
guy. And up until that point, I think we assumed that that was present time,
Yeah.
his POV. And so when I finished that chapter, I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait a second, what?" So is that a past scene or like a past timeline? But then they do line up because that's who Thurwar and Stax end up fighting against in their doubles.
Mhm.
So that part was like kind of trippy because I was like, did I miss something? Like, was that made obvious?
That's how I felt too, and just some of the characters, even though with the audiobook, they had different, voice narrators for them, it was still hard to keep up with who was who, and especially with the chapters, it never specifically said who it was, like, whose point of view it was from,
Right.
and it wasn't until you, like, really paid attention that you knew what point of view it was, and sometimes it would hop around too, because
Mhm.
it was, what, 3rd person? But I there was a couple times that I'm like, "Wait, who said what? What was
Mhm.
that?" And that was a part too that I was like, "I thought this was in the same timeline."
Yeah. So yeah, that part was definitely clever. That was one thing that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. So I guess for me, my overall thoughts, and I was mentioning this to Sam before we went live as well. I think objectively, like this book is, as you said, very powerful. I think it has a lot to say. It is well written. Like there's no
Mhm,
denying that this is very, very well written. I just did not like the content of it
mhm,
just because it was so violent and real and raw, and it's just that's just not something that I like to read about. So, objectively, I would say this book is like a 4 or 5 star. I just don't think that my enjoyment warrants a 4 or 5-star rating.
Mhm.
So I am very conflicted. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of my basic overall thoughts without going into, like, too much detail.
Mhm.
There were certain things that made me feel a little bit more invested in the story. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I started this book Saturday. I did,
Okay.
like, some,
Mhm.
spontaneously did some reading sprints, because it was just me and the dog at home. I'm like, "Why not? No one else is doing
Mhm.
sprints. I'll just get on and hold myself accountable for getting this book started." So I started it Saturday night, and I finished it in the wee hours of technically this morning, but I'm still considering it September. Um, so, like, I got through it pretty quickly, I think, and, like, I wanted to pick it back up and get back into the story and kinda see where it was going, but at the same time, like, actually reading it, I'm just like, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah, that's I every time I put it down, I was like, "Okay, I need a break," but I wanted to pick it back up, but then when I did, I was like, I can't just, like, binge this. This is not a bingeable for me." I just felt way too emotional with everything, um, but I'm the type of person that I'm like, "Oh, that made me feel something. I like that,"
Yeah,
even though I was uncomfortable.
yeah. Ooh, that would be another really good word for it too,
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable, yes.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So, being as this is a science fiction book club, what were some of the elements in this book that you picked up on as being sci-fi? Because I know the overall category of this book is dystopian, so obviously there's that, but there were some
Mhm.
other things that were mentioned. So, what did you pick up on?
Um, Definitely, like, the technology that they had,
Mhm.
the, like, cameras that followed them around, and then even the devices that would, like, shock them if they talked or did something incorrectly.
Mhm.
That's where I'm like, "Okay, this isn't real yet." I mean,
Right.
um, those were, like, the things that I really noticed right
Mhm.
away.
Yeah. Um, yes, I definitely picked up on those too. What color? I think it was yellow. With my yellow tabs. So yeah, the things in the wrist. I liked that they were different colors too, so it, like, let them know, like, what mode they were on.
Mhm.
Like, if it was blue, don't talk because you're gonna be on the ground in a lot of pain. Um, when they brought them their food,
Oh, yeah.
it was like it reminded me of, like, a little drone delivery or something.
Yes, that's exactly what I pictured.
Um, and then definitely, like, the whole Hunger Games vibes. But again, that's kinda dystopian. The vehicles, they do drive autonomously. That was talked
Mhm.
about at one point. Who was this? Okay, so it was Emily and Will. They were in the car going somewhere, and she wanted him to just, like, sit back and relax so they could talk about something, and he's like, "No, no, no, I wanna drive us there."
Mhm.
So I was like, "Okay." So I like how it was just very subtly thrown in there.
Yeah.
There wasn't much explanation, there wasn't much, like, you know big to do like, "Ooh, hey, look at
Mhm.
this. This is science fiction." Um, this other character, Lucas, I can't remember who that person is, but they were talking about meeting at a lunch or meeting for lunch at an E-diner, and again, it didn't go into much detail, it just says, "A rolling contraption that looked older than her brought them trays of American breakfast food."
I
So it's like
remember that, but I didn't even think of that.
yeah.
I was just like, "Yeah, whatever."
Um, and I think that was oh, wait, there might be one more. Oh, let the car do it then, so more autonomous driving. So yeah, I liked that it was just so subtle.
Yeah. And they were easy to, like, comprehend too, like, it wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, what how does that work?" and all that. It
Right.
was like, "This is the color, it zaps you into severe amount of pain."
Yep.
Um, or I guess what was the influencing too?
So that made me think of, like, one of those, unforgivable curses from Harry Potter,
Yeah.
where it, like, forces you to do something. Is that
Yeah.
what it was like?
I that was one thing that I still didn't kind of grasp what was happening,
Yeah.
'cause I was like, yeah, it's like they're getting forced to do something, but also to me it was like, yeah, I guess like a curse would be a way to like describe it.
Because it almost seemed like they did still kind of have their wits about them and like they knew what was going
Mhm.
on, but they were still
Yeah.
doing
And
what
they
they
were
had
saying
to do.
everyone was saying how awful they like people look when they're being influenced and they've never felt like so much pain and it's like, so what's happening then?
Yeah. Yeah. Hello. Sorry I'm late. Read this book a few months ago. Overall, I liked it, but it was a difficult read. Yes, very much. Yep, uncomfortable is a good word. Thank you for joining. Nice to see you again. Okay, so the two main characters that we follow throughout the book, obviously, are Loretta Thurwar and Hurricane Stax. Um, without mentioning how the book ends, because we'll get to that, whose storyline were you kind of more invested in?
So I'll be honest, I was actually struggling in the middle of the book on whose story was who. In the
Mm,
beginning, I felt like it was so easy, but then I think that's because I started just listening and not tandem reading.
mhm,
Um, but that's hard because I feel like Thurwar is such like a solid person where Stax was like they just seemed so opposite, you
mhm,
know? Like, one was, like, the more, like, cold, but a leader that was, like, wanting empathy, but Stax was more vocal about, like, "Oh, I'm gonna spread love, I'm gonna do what I can," and she was a lot more vocal about it,
mhm.
which I feel like in person, I would prefer someone more like Stax. But in the story, I think I actually was, like, rooting for Thurwar and,
Yeah,
like, her, like, overcoming everything that she has.
yeah. Yeah, I think I would agree, and I also agree that at a certain point, it was kinda hard to tell the 2 apart, but then definitely more towards the end a little bit, it became even more obvious.
Yeah, it redefined
Yeah,
their characters.
yeah. So Thurwar, I think overall I did root for her more,
Mhm,
especially once it was kind of revealed that the rules were changing and because
mhm,
they were both going to be, like, at the colossal level, that would no longer be allowed. Um, and so I guess to reiterate for people that don't know or haven't read it, the chain gang is basically kind of a team, and all of the links on the chain or people on the team, they don't have to fight each other, but they're kind of like they travel together and they have to lean on each other and things like that. So they've always been Loretta and Hurricane have always been on the same chain. But like I said, the sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. The neighbor's dog is outside and
mm.
he's very yippy. um, the rules are changing, and so because both Loretta and Hurricane are going to be at, like, one of the top tiers,
Mhm,
longer allowed, so even though they are part of the same chain, they do have to fight each other, and so only one of them is going to make it out alive, and so I think once that part was revealed, I think I was kind of leaning more towards Loretta because
mhm.
she seemed more in it and stable. Plus, she kinda had the bum knee, so,
I
like
was gonna say, then you were like, "She has overcome so much, all these physical ailments that she has been dealing with and just takes every challenge head on." You're like, "Come on, she
yeah,
suffered so much." Where Stax was just so much more like, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to be loud and spread love. I'm here to, like make a name for myself and be a presence." And while that's still like admirable, it's like almost like Thurwar felt like an underdog, even
mm,
though she was top.
yeah,
She was the ultimate uh top person to beat, but she felt like an underdog. Like her story felt more of an underdog story to
yeah,
me.
yeah. No, for sure. And Stax too, like, she definitely fed into the entertainment side of
Mhm.
this whole thing where Thor like, she didn't care
Yeah,
at all.
well, they even said, like, oh, for her to speak, it was, like, a big deal,
Yeah.
where Stax was like, "Camera, camera."
Yeah. I also didn't like, I mean, whatever, that type of world, like, do what you want, but, like, she Stax and Thurwar were supposedly in love, but I think Thurwar loved Stax more than Stax loved Thurwar, especially
Mhm.
because in addition to being with Thurwar, she was also with that Randy guy.
Mhm.
She's like, "Why choose?"
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I'm just like, "Really, girl? Come on."
She was like, "I'm gonna die at any minute. I am going to do whatever I want in
Yeah.
this moment." But I also feel like Thurwar, even though, like, they were, like, so in love, she was still very closed off.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, Stax just seemed like the type of person that she was like, "If you're not gonna give me love right now, I'll go find it somewhere else."
Yeah. That's true. That's true. So, I didn't list this in the, questions, although maybe it could feed into the next question, but did do you feel once we found out what happened between Stax and I'm sorry, is it
Sunset.
Sunset? Okay.
Mhm.
I keep wanting to call him Sunny. Sunset. Now that we know that he wanted to die, but he couldn't do it, and he, like, had her help him,
Mhm.
so she was, like, doing him a solid.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that redeemed her at all in your eyes?
Honestly, I predicted it from the beginning
Oh,
that
really?
it was, like, a suicide type of a thing,
Yeah.
just because the way she was saying, like, "You need to." Oh, did I freeze?
No,
Okay.
you're good.
Okay. Um, I didn't know it the way she was just talking, I was like, "No, she just doesn't seem like someone that would hide things unless there was, like, a bigger purpose."
Mhm,
And I just wasn't shocked at that at all. I don't know if it's just because of, like, the type of situation.
mhm.
I could see I still didn't really understood, like, I get why he did it, but I'm still like, I don't know. I understand it, but I'm like, "Why?" Like, "Come on, you've made it this far."
Yeah.
Um
Well, I mean, he was older, and I think
Mhm.
maybe deep down he knew he probably wouldn't keep surviving, and I don't think he wanted his death to be out in the open in front of everyone to see.
Well, and he even made, like, the comment, like, that I lived my life, this isn't the life I'm not meant for that, and even his daughter was like, "I don't really want him out." So,
Mhm,
I get it,
mhm.
but I had a feeling from the get-go that so to me, it didn't really I never was like, "Oh, that, like, makes up for it," because I was like, "Nah, I felt like there was a bigger purpose that she did it for." So
So it
that didn't change
influenced
too much how I thought about her.
Excuse me. Alright, we have some okay, so you preferred Thurwar, felt like a better
Mhm.
developed character. Yeah, I would say that's accurate as well. Hello, welcome. I was definitely rooting for Stax. Okay, interesting. Just because I think she would function better outside of the games, and the reason she was in the games in the first place was justifiable murder. I don't oh, yeah. Oh, I had it and then I just lost it. Wasn't it like was it a situation of self-defense, like somebody was taking advantage of her? I can't remember. Do you recall what the
See, this is where I was getting, like, their backstories
mixed
mixed
up?
up, and that Thurwar killed her partner, wasn't it? Or and then Stax was self-def I think it was, like, she was getting taken advantage of, and I think this is where I was getting them she killed her teacher, tried to rape her. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it was, like, a sexual assault, like, protecting herself from
Mhm,
it. Okay,
mhm. Yeah.
and Thurwar was in there because didn't she murder her partner?
Oh my gosh, I can't remember.
Now I'm like, all the storylines and stuff, that's where I'm like, "Wait, who was that?
Yeah.
Who did what?"
Oh gosh, I don't
'Cause
remember.
some stories like, the backstories, I felt like they really defined what happened, but Thurwar, I felt like they didn't, like, for a long time, you just got kind of told, like, oh, yeah, she did something really bad, and yeah, she killed her partner.
Okay.
Um, but
Good
you
memory.
didn't really I don't remember if we got, like, the actual, like, details of it.
Right.
I
I
mean,
feel
maybe we did. Yeah, she choked her.
oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember
But do
why
we
that
know why?
I know, that's so surprising, like, not remembering.
That's where I was getting confused because I was like, "Do we know her backstory, or is it just like, we know that she killed her partner by choking
Yeah.
her, or do we know, like, what amounted to it?"
Mhm.
Because I don't remember, and I'm like, "Did I just, like, forget?"
Oh,
That she
yeah.
loved another man. Yeah, because that's why she said okay, that's why she said she was doing better with Stax, who was with Randy, and
That
that's how she
was
has grown as a
confusing.
person too.
Ooh.
Okay, thank you for that because
Yes,
I was gonna
me
say, I
too.
feel like I know it, but it's not like I'm questioning whose story it was.
Yeah. Oh, man. I didn't even put that together, like, how triggering that must have been and how big of a hurdle that would have been for her to overcome.
That's what I feel like there was, like, a small paragraph saying, like, "This actually helped her because she has grown. She's a different person than who she was," and I was and it might have not even been all together like, "Oh, like, this is an example." It was like, "Oh, yeah, she's grown." And it was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, if you don't put these together, you don't realize how she really has grown."
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Um, whoopsies. Okay. So that kind of leads into this question a little bit. Do we feel like the contestants were more like heroes, villains? I think maybe like a little bit of both, just depending on the person and their whole reason of why they're there. Because obviously, all of these contestants are criminals or quote unquote criminals. They
Mhm.
were put in prison for something.
Yeah, that's I have I always try to see, like, the good in people,
Mhm.
and I am notorious for sympathizing with villains, like, that's when you get, like, a villain origin story, I am one that I'm actually really critical about because 'cause I'm like, "No, I really need it to be, like, justifiable, defining on, like, why they are the way they are now."
Yeah.
Like, just, like, in reference, like, with Disney, villains, like, when they came out with Maleficent and Cruella and all that type of stuff, I was like, "I need their backstory so I can sympathize with them." But I think it plays on to such a, like, we all have good and bad. We
Mhm.
all are not perfect, and so when you find out why people did the things they did, how are we to say that we wouldn't act the same or we would act the same or how we would do things differently? And that's where they obviously were treated like heroes, but some of their crimes and some of their empathy towards their crimes definitely were not the same. Like Simon, you could just but even his story, you're like, it sounds like he was abused. Like he
Mhm.
was had a horrible childhood and this is what created him into a monster. So even though he is still a monster that doesn't really feel empathetic towards his crimes, he was probably the one that I would only really be like, "No, he's still, like, a villain," even though I empathize with what he had to go through. The
Mhm.
rest of them, I was like, You guys have come so far."
Aw. Yeah, was Simon the one that, like, killed his mom or something?
And he was a rapist Um, but it said that he had been raped, like, if it hadn't been done to him, he wouldn't have done it in his lifetime, but you could just tell that there were a lot of issues,
Yeah.
um, with him, and it was like, well, were they just act they were they actual mental health issues, or were they coping mechanisms that he had learned just in order to survive? And
Yeah.
then they also I don't remember, like, his exact crimes, but he was, put in isolation,
Mhm.
and then they were saying how mentally debilitating that is, and it's like, well, is he the way he is now from what he was put through even more after he did these horrible things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he was one that I'm like, when it comes to, like, the true villains who don't feel any empathy afterwards, you're kinda like, "Eh."
Yeah. I don't know, like, I think for me, it really depends on definitely what the person did to land them where they are
Mhm.
and how they are as a person now in the present. Because like, some of them still gave me, like, the creeps.
Well, and there were, like, some of the side characters who they said the one guy, he was actually, like, he lived a boring life, and he was so happy for the games and stuff because he lived for it. He lived for the brutality of it, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're not great."
Yeah,
Like
you get a screw loose somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, it felt very individual to me, and it also depended on the perspective. I thought it was interesting how personas were imposed on them. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like it's not about heroes or villains, but a criticism of a system that's exploiting people. Yeah. The viewers in this story fall into the hero villain diatribe, but I found it hard to sympathize with. Yeah, the characters just anger at the system. Yeah, definitely. And I talking about the um oh my gosh, the word just escaped me, but the solitary confinement and
Mhm.
how that just that what good does that do?
Yeah.
Absolutely
Well,
nothing.
and then even, like, before Simon got into, the CAPE program or not Simon, Hendrix,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
singer.
Before he got into it, he was essentially a slave and couldn't speak for years.
Mhm.
Like, to me, that was, like I felt super heavy after that when he was like, "I couldn't like, I haven't heard my voice in 3 years." It's like, could you imagine, like, not only being forced to do, like, a gruesome job that a lot of people wouldn't do to begin with, you're forcing to do it, it's intensive labor, and then you can't even speak for 3 years.
Mhm.
It is brutal, like
I think I did kinda have a soft spot for him too, and just, like, how calm he seemed and how wise he seemed.
Mhm,
I did really like him, so I was kinda bummed that I don't think I expected the guys to win against the girls in the
mhm.
doubles match, but at the same time, I was kinda sad. And he was
I
the first to go too, because then it talked about how Simon, like, looked and the person that he looked up to
Mhm.
was, like, dead on the ground. It's like, "Oh."
Yeah, and that's where and then you feel bad because Simon finally has found one person who actually treated him well, and
Mhm.
you could see, like, that he still was human deep
Yeah.
down inside. He's just been so hurt and abused by the system
Mhm.
and, the world, and this one person gave him a little light, and that little light made him a better person, and then he died. It's like but it kinda, like, makes you think, like, can some people overcome all of the abuse that they've been through and all of the hardships, or are they truly going to be a criminal the rest of their life? And especially when they're doing something that is so brutal and awful, like, and they're becoming m bigger criminals by doing it.
Exactly. Like, I was thinking that too, like, do you want these people walking free on the street again that just killed however many people it took to get them to the rank they needed to be freed? Like,
Well, and that's why I agree with, like, I feel like Stax would have handled it better outside because Thurwar, to me, kinda gives me, like without spoiling anything too much from The Hunger Games, like, it gives me, like, Haymitch vibes, like, just does not handle it well.
yeah, like, forever changed and, like
Yeah, and just, like, knowing you have this responsibility to
Mhm,
try to break the system, but feeling so defeated
mhm,
constantly by it.
mhm.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, that'd be I don't know who really won that match.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Uh, yep, agreed on what she said. Okay, so people in this story, they had a choice. And I don't recall if there was any like criteria they had to meet or if just anybody was provided this choice, but if you went to prison for something, you had the option, like you had to actually like agree and sign paperwork to join this CAPE program. So, if you were incarcerated for any reason, would you just serve out your time or would you give it a go and be a contestant?
I think so obviously context is gonna be, like, a big deal, like, what got me in there? Did I feel like did I feel like it was justified, like, um, like, I deserved to be there, or do I feel like I was wrongly convicted or, you know, standards along that, and it would really depend on, like, how long,
Yeah.
because if it was a short term, I'd be like, "No, just ride it out, you don't need to put your life at risk," but if you're in there forever, honestly, I think it would be a good way out, not for freedom.
Yeah.
Like, cause I just don't based on what we found out with Hendrix, I don't know how much of a life and Simon, I'm like, I don't know how much of a life that is to be in the system, so
Yeah. Yeah.
but I also am like, I'd be gone first round, like, I don't think I would make it very far.
Same.
As much as I will cosplay things, I realistically
Yeah.
It's like killing another human, that would be so physically and mentally hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I went deer hunting when I was 12. First time ever. It was successful and I never went again. So,
Yeah.
I don't think I would be able to do that to a human.
See, I grew up with hunting. I have never personally, like, killed an animal, but I just the older I've gotten, I was like, "I don't even think I can try anymore," but also working on a farm where there were times I had to, it broke me. Like, I had the hardest time, and that was a big reason I didn't even become a veterinarian because you actually have to, even though it's like humanely and you're ending suffering, there are so many times that I'm like, I can't handle the pressure of doing that even when it's in the best doing.
Yeah.
So I would be so hard, but if the life you lived in prison was that miserable where you could
Mhm.
not speak, you
Yeah.
were given awful food, you were forced into, like, slavery,
Mhm.
I just I mean, it might not be that bad, at least, like, you're not suffering in prison, it really just depends on, like, what your goals are, do you have family that's waiting for you, are you one that you think that you can, like, change the system if you can get through it,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It would based on what Simon and Hendrix had to go through, I mean, it sounds like a not bad alternative, but it would be hard.
Yeah. I'm a little bit delulu, I think. I have it in my mind that if I was ever incarcerated, that I would, you know, get assigned to working in the library and I would just get to sort books and read all day and I'd be really well behaved and so I'd probably get out early and everyone would like me and they'd be like, "We can't beat her up. She's too nice." But that's what I think in my mind. And I don't think like unless I think the only time that I am confident that I could like raise hell is if
Mhm,
somebody was, like, threatening my kids
mhm,
or if their life was in danger and it required me to turn into, like, mama bear,
yep,
then I think I could do it.
yeah.
But aside from that, I don't think I have it in me either, to be
Well,
honest.
and I guess it really depends on who you're going against because some of them were, like, the youngest ever criminals, like, they were saying they're essentially kids, but
Mhm.
then you're also going against a bunch of, like, rapist men that are just, like, blood hungry and, like, want more violence, and I'm like, It would really maybe I say that when I'm, like
Actually.
when I cry over, like, the littlest things, but
Yeah.
I also felt that way, like, "Oh, if I was incarcerated," and then I watched Orange Is the New Black, and then I'm like, "Never mind, never mind, I'm so naive." Like,
See, that's what makes me think that I would like, I'm Delulu and think that it would turn out okay for me
oh, that's
because
what I'm like, I'll be taken down real quick. I'll be
Oh.
put in my place, and I'll just be miserable after that, because then I'll be scared, and then I'll be even a bigger target, and I'm like, "Oh, no."
Oh,
I'll
no.
snowball after that. Things are just going downhill.
See, I guess that's the bad thing because if I'm provoked like that, like, for no reason, I think I might get fed up and, like, snap,
Mhm.
but then so much for getting out on good behavior, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, I'm like, when I'm just fed up, man, but that's
Mhm.
where I'm like, maybe in the CAPE program, that would be beneficial. Like, once you're so sick of being in the system and you're like, "I'm done dealing with, like, how awful and broken this system is," like, yeah, maybe I have some pent-up violence that I wanna get out.
So, like, chill in jail for, a decade and then be like, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm
Yeah,
ready."
yeah, exactly.
Let's see. I feel like if there was a changing to Thurwar would probably have unalived herself because I don't know if she See, that's the thing, like, I don't think I was surprised that she killed Stax. However, I was because I didn't think she'd be able to because of how
Yeah.
much she loved her. And I was thinking if there was ever a sequel, it would be very interesting to see her life after this. Like,
Mhm.
is she freed? Is she normal? Is she able to acclimate back into society? Does she
But
unalive
is it like the Hunger Games where they're kind of tied up into it that they never really
herself?
can leave?
Yeah. All right,
'Cause
Nana
I
Kwame
also feel like
Adjei-Brenyah
there's, like, some real
sequel,
fine print when they sign that contract that we didn't see,
probably.
you know?
You must now mentor the next generation of
Yeah,
contestants.
or the season change, new rule
Oh,
change, you actually come back now. Yeah, I could
no.
this honestly was giving me now that you so much Hunger Games, but I could see a sequel. I
Yeah,
could.
yeah. How old is this? It's not that old, but, like, what, 23? 22?
23, I think.
Okay, yep. So, I mean, it's only been a couple years. So she's saying, "Oh, hell no, but I do not have the physique for it." Yeah, I would have to definitely, buff up in prison before
I was gonna
I
say you have lots of time there. That's
Yeah,
the nice thing, like,
yeah,
a lot of people get more in shape in prison because they have nothing else to do,
yeah,
and it helps their mental health and get all that energy out.
yeah. And then you can practice your right hook when you need to defend yourself
Yeah.
if someone wants to steal your breakfast. You don't even have the physique for yoga. I used to, and now in my ripe old age of almost 36, I think I'd probably, like, snap a hamstring if I tried to do any yoga right now. So I am right there with you. I used to work in the sheriff's office, and on the jail tour, I kept thinking of how much reading I could get done. Yeah, if people, like, actually left you alone, but
Yeah.
you could just act like the crazy one, and people might wanna just be like, "Ooh, don't mess with
Mhm.
her, she'll spit on you." She does have dark thoughts of giving it all up and pulling a Melancholia Bishop throughout the book. Okay, I know this happened at the very beginning, and I should have gone back. I do not remember for the life of me how that turned out because that was, like, the very first scene, wasn't it? The one that was, like, pretty graphic? What happened to her?
Yes.
I don't
I
really
also don't remember a lot. This is where this book had so much depth in things that I feel like I could reread it and pick up on so much new stuff, and especially first couple chapters, I don't know what it is about it. If there's, like, big pertinent information in it, I will not remember it.
Mhm.
My brain's like, I can process the main things and that's it.
Didn't she, like, basically throw in the towel and let Thurwar win?
Yes. Yes.
Something like that.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, it's all coming back to me. My brain was like, I don't remember anything. And then yes, because she was teaching her to swing through
Mhm.
and like she was just like, yeah, because the title is The Freeing of Melancholia Bishop.
Yeah.
And she did. And she was just like, I can't anymore.
You wanna know something interesting I just realized? The end, holy cow, this just gave me chills. The end of chapter 1 or the prologue or well, there's no number, so I guess chapter 1 is Thurwar killing Bishop. And it talks about how those people were silent no more. So, like, I'm assuming the people watching.
Mhm.
The very end of the last chapter is Thurwar killing Stax and talking about how the people had been thrown to rapturous silence. That's so interesting.
That's some good writing right there.
That is so interesting. So, like, the very beginning, noise
Mhm.
and chaos, and the very ending, silence. And it's the same situation, Thurwar killing somebody.
Mhm.
Ooh, I
So
I literally have chills right now. I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Um, okay. I don't think I could go into the K program, but most of the people we see in the program have had the influencer used on them. Oh, so like they were not of their own I have like a hair in my mouth. They were not of their own mind when they agreed. Is that what you're saying? I didn't pick up on that. Oh, which changes the brain chemistry. Okay. So who knows? Huh. I have a genetic condition that is like all the worst forms of Ehlers-Danlos.
mm.
I don't know what that is.
Is that what Rebecca Yaros has?
I didn't know that. I need to look this
I
up now.
think it is. Yeah, that'd be
Oh, okay. Overly flexible, bruises easily. Okay. Stretchy skin, abnormal scar formation. Okay. So not like um I, I guess more fragile. Would that be? I think so. Maybe it's a connective tissue disorder. Yeah. So that would not fare well for you in that type of setting.
well, and they didn't even talk. I mean, they did a little bit, but not a ton about, like, the recovery, and, I mean, we only really got, like, Thurwar's, like, her knee, like, all that kinda stuff, and, like, sometimes, um, like, a little bit about that, but it's like, that is brutal on your body, and then to keep marching and marching, and when you're lower on the chain and you're just starting, you don't even get your own weapon to
Mhm,
begin with, and then you're probably more likely have injuries,
mhm.
and it's just yeah, the whole gladiator setup is just brutal, like, it's not meant for survival.
Gotta go, my chaos gremlin. Oh no. Well, thank
Oh.
you for joining. Thanks for reading with us. Good luck. Chaos gremlin. Oh my gosh. I love that. I need to start calling my kids that now. Time for bed, you chaos gremlins. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Another thing that I didn't pick up on regarding Thurwar's knee is that I feel like in a lot of stories, the like main heroine, she has I'm just automatically thinking of Fourth Wing and Violet and like
Mhm,
her condition, it kind of like makes you think that maybe she doesn't have it or she's not at like the optimal level of
mhm,
strength that she should be to get through the hardships that she's about to face. But then at the same time, like they do overcome that. So I find it interesting that Thurwar was the one that had that
and that's where
limitation.
I think she gets that bit of the underdog,
Yeah.
and like, Stax is the more likable character because her crime really, like, can be justified even though the court system didn't justify it,
Mhm.
um, but she just was so much more likable, but we get a lot more of Thurwar where I think she's just more like realistic of a person. Like she is not perfect. She has these aches and pains. She didn't have these skills going in. She should have died on her first match.
Mhm.
She is like a heated person who can't control her emotions. And so seeing her overcome it, I think you root for that a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very true. It's like ingrained in us with all the
Mhm.
different storylines that we
Yeah.
see in books and movies and
You
yeah.
want the one that's had a harder time, that has come farther along.
Okay, so this book has a lot of footnotes, kind of like I mentioned in this synopsis. And I think a lot of them, some of them just give more context to the story, like maybe going into more detail of a specific character and kind of their past or what landed them in prison. Um, but then also there are, like I said, kind of like court cases that are talked about or things having to do with different laws and policies. Um, so did that, especially if you listen to the audiobook, it does like automatically go to that when
Mhm.
the little marking that indicates, "Hey, check out the footnote," happens. Did you find that distracting? Did you like that added context to the story? How did you feel about it?
At first, it threw me off when because I was tandem reading it, and I was just like, "Oh, wait," like,
Yeah.
there's going to a footnote, and the audiobook, it did kind of throw me off when I was just listening audio only because it would stop, mid-paragraph, mid-thought and then jump to that,
Yeah.
but I really enjoyed the footnotes.
Mhm.
Like I said, I knew almost all of them or have heard of them and just of all the different things I've watched and read.
Mhm.
So they weren't shocking. To me, that's where, like, the super heaviness came from because it was like, it almost felt to me like nonfiction at
Yeah.
times. And that's where you almost get, like, to me, also, like, the sci-fi part of things because 'cause you're like, "This could easily be." I mean, and some of these things showed, like, yeah, this is happening right now. This is things that they are using. The tear gas one was one I wasn't aware of, but some of the court cases, were actually documentaries that I've watched, and so I was like, "Yeah, this is already happening. Some of
Mhm.
this stuff is already happening," and so that's where I'm like, "Oh, this just, like," it made it heavy, it gave me chills. I was like, "I need to set this down and just think about it," but to me, it brought a lot of light and even more, like, truth and reality to the story, which I think made it even more believable.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, um, I'm gonna try to find. Okay, here it is. Oh my goodness. So, one thing that I liked about the footnotes, so I did enjoy them. I felt that they added a lot of context. And I think for me, especially, how do I phrase this? Being somebody that is not Black and not having those experiences, not facing the same prejudices that people of color do, I think I even more so appreciated the context
Mhm.
because those aren't things that I have to experience, and they're not things that are at the forefront of my mind because they don't have to be, even though they should be. So, I did really like that aspect, and I think too, it kinda helped the readers realize, like, "Hey, this isn't just a story," like
Yeah, it wasn't, like, just someone making up stuff, it's,
yeah,
like, fact.
yeah, and on page 137, they talk about people of color and particularly people of the African diaspora make up so many of the characters of this show. Black people and other minorities were disproportionately imprisoned. And then the footnote talks about how like 2,200 out of every 100,000 Black men are incarcerated at a state or federal level compared to 392 out of every 100,000 white men. And then
Mhm.
then it gives the figures for women, Black women and white women as well. So I just think that in addition to, yes, this is a story, yes, this story is fiction, like, don't lose sight of the fact that this, like I said, this is stuff that people face. This is real. It may not be real to, somebody like me, but it is very real for many, many people. And I'm not saying, because I'm white, but also because, where I live.
Mhm.
And economic status, things like that. So just really making the reader I guess humble
Mhm.
us is maybe a good way to phrase that.
Yeah, and even just, like, aware that
Yeah.
and
Awareness. Yes.
that's where so I listen to a lot of true crime, and it's not because that's where there's such a, like, stigma on, like, true crime on, like, "Oh, you're" this is where you get into, like, the plot of the story, "Oh, is it entertainment? What is it
Mhm.
for?" But
Mhm.
it's so many of those stats
Mhm.
that you learn from it, and it's like, how do you break the cycle of the stats? Like, true crime, the prison shows, all of that, like, I have found out so much of this information, and that's when I liked having those, like, yeah, this whole idea wasn't based on just, like, a whim, it was based on something that actually happened,
Yeah.
and that's why I think this gives it so much more depth to the story.
Yeah. 100%. I listened to the audiobook, so I didn't realize they were formatted as footnotes. Oh, okay. Yes. And one thing I did really like, yes, they would read the footnotes, like, in the middle of a paragraph,
Mhm.
but they did at least, like, finish the sentence,
Yes.
which I appreciated.
Mhm.
I liked the mix of types of narrative. Mhm. Sort of how, like, everything in The Handmaid's Tale had already occurred somewhere in the world. That's very true.
That's
That's very
crazy.
true. Yeah, and it's because it's like, especially being Americans, and we are led to believe that things
Mhm.
are a certain way in another country, thinking like, "Oh, that could never be us." Like,
Yep.
"Oh, those poor people in that faraway land
Mhm.
experiencing this oppression."
Mhm.
It's like, that's real life, and it 100% could be here and happen here, and
Yeah.
we just need to, like, get our heads out of the clouds
Mhm.
and do something. And I think with all of the protesting and the people that were fighting for social injustice, like, that's a huge theme in this book too. Like, yes, we're getting
Mhm.
the storyline of the contestants, but we're also getting the POVs of people on the outside who are spectating, but are not agreeing with this and are seeing
Mhm.
this, like, this is immoral. This is not okay. We are, like, desensitizing our public to this horrific thing that's happening, and it's not okay.
Yeah, and there was that whole scene where they had all of, the all-stars all together, and they're supposed to do, like, these promo things, and the protesters were there, and they're like, "No, keep it calm," and it
Mhm,
turned into, like, a family altercation ended up turning it into a riot, and then
mhm,
people were getting harmed, and, and it's just like it's stuff like that that something so simple can get turned into something so chaotic,
yeah,
even though the people are like, "No, keep it calm," and it's like, yeah, all it takes is one person to escalate things for everything to get escalated.
mhm, yep. Okay, so the footnotes. Okay, so overall, did the book end the way you expected? And then did this book work for you? Why or why not?
So, like, I think deep down, I knew it was going to end this way, but I
Mhm,
was still hoping for something a little different. Like, I was hoping for, like, they were gonna overthrow the system, something was gonna happen. Um,
That'd be
but
a
I think I
happy
knew
ending.
I think I knew deep down that it was gonna be kind of realistic. Like, no, this one person wins. and
Mhm.
that's how it ends, and the fact that it wasn't Stax, I think just from the fact that we start out with Thurwar, I'm like, it would've been more shocking to me, I think, that if she wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
So, I think it worked in the part of that, like, it's not a fairy tale, like, this book is not a fairy tale. It was very realistic, and it held that to the end of how, like, people were gonna be suppressed, and
Mhm.
the owners and the creators of these gangs, and the games they were doing, that they are still in control,
Mm.
and they were gonna just do what it was, but you hope that, like, little ripple that happened in the next book that we don't even know is even a thing would actually, like, make waves.
I actually wonder.
I could see if he didn't do a sequel. Is there? Oh.
No, I got excited, but it says 2019.
Oh.
I don't know, and there's
I
0
could
information.
I could understand if there wasn't a sequel, because then to me it would almost be like The Hunger Games. It would almost be like, "Oh, yeah, now we're gonna try to write about what we want," and that's not the point of this book. This book is to bring, like, enlightenment of the things that are happening right now that are very close to things that do happen in this book,
Mhm.
and that's where I'm like, I could see why he wouldn't do a second book,
Yeah.
because it would take away of what this first one really stands for.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Not every book, as much as we may want to know
Mhm.
what happens, not every book needs to be a sequel.
Yeah.
Um, I the only thing that surprised me about the ending was there was a little aha moment where once I kinda picked up on the fact that Simon and Hendrix were, at least for a time, kind of the past timeline.
Mhm.
It, like, caught up to the present timeline, and then
Yeah.
when I realized, "Oh, damn," like, they are the ones that are going to fight Thurwar and Stax in the doubles match. That kinda surprised me, but then I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." And then like I said, I was rooting for Thurwar over Stax. I'm glad she was the one that won. It was a little surprising because, like I said, I didn't think that she would be able to do that to Stax,
Mhm.
but I probably would have been bummed if it would have been reversed.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, it didn't surprise me, and it, for the most part, did end how I expected it to end. I did not like think that any type of overthrowing of the system was going to happen because, kind of like you said, like that would not have gone with the flow of the story. Like for there to just
Mhm.
magically be like this happy ending and they both make it out alive. Like, no, I didn't see that coming. Um, But there was kind of a moment, it was like the last couple chapters that I was like, "Oh, who is it gonna be? I don't know." And what
Mhm.
made me really mad, something I was worried about, is we wouldn't have known,
Yeah.
and we would have
I
had.
thought that too. That's what I even reread, like, the last chapter a couple times just to make sure I
Yeah.
was understanding what happened. Because the
Yep.
way he wrote it too, you're like, "Okay, wait," like, it was in it was, like, almost intentional of
Mhm.
what they did, like,
Yeah.
and that's why Stax even said, "Gotcha," because she was this is where I even went on Reddit to, like, justify I was understanding things, and it was she hit Thurwar with the butt of hers to be like, "I would have actually won,
Mhm.
but but I'm gonna let you follow this through."
Yeah. So did she basically pulled a bishop then?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't connect those 2 things. Like, I knew that she could have got her and didn't.
Mhm.
It's a gotcha moment. But I didn't pick up on, like, oh, she kinda
Did
made it.
what happened in the beginning? Yeah, until you said that either, it wasn't like that's crazy. And I guess that's not quite a full circle moment because it wasn't like Thurwar did it. It wasn't reversed, but it
Mhm.
was like we were in the same spot again. But yeah.
I think my rating is going up from this conversation. I had no expectations for the ending. I guess I understood it would not have a happy ending.
Yeah. The beginning set that up pretty quickly that that was not this type of book.
I was just like, whatever's gonna happen will happen.
Mhm.
I had occasional quibbles with things, but nothing I really remember now, so yeah, the book worked for me. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that didn't work for me was just the fact that this is not content that I would normally read. This
Mhm.
definitely was not, the type of story I was expecting, even though I knew going into it that this was, like, a fight to the death type of gladiator
Mhm.
match situation. Like, the summary is very clear about that, but I think just because of how much praise it's gotten, how many people enjoy it. I mean, it's got a 4.12, I believe, on Goodreads, like, that's pretty high. So, I was expecting something not so violent, I think, which
Yeah.
makes 0 sense, but
I like,
that
and I to bring this up again, I loved how many characters there were, but oftentimes I did get confused on who was being talked about and what was being said and all these different people that were thrown in there. But I think that's where it made the story good because you were seeing all these different perspectives. You were seeing someone who is obsessed with the games and is trying to get their wife into it, and she's like, "Oh, I don't really like this," but then
Mhm.
I'm also invested, like, I can't stop watching even though I hate this, and then you
Yeah,
have the protesters, and I love the complexity of that.
yeah, well said. So would you read from Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah again, either his short story collection or if he has another book that comes out?
I think I would. I really liked, especially some of, like, the poetic things and, like, the songs and the writing style.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look up the short stories.
yeah. I would recommend. I think overall I gave it like a 3, which
Mhm.
doesn't sound high, but like that's above average.
3
Like,
to me is you liked it. Like, you don't
yeah,
need to it doesn't need to be groundbreaking or anything, but you
yeah,
can still enjoy it. A 3 isn't a bad rating for me.
right, right. Um, yeah, a couple things regarding like his writing style and how poetic it was at times. Um, I marked where he says, I can't remember whose chapter this is. I think Simon, maybe. I don't know. But he said they paint the walls with words, they build walls with their words. Like, I read that and I'm like, ooh, that did something for me. I don't know. And
That's
then
with only even, like, tabbing the beginning, I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many tabs here, I'm not gonna remember what any of them were," because I just the way he would write some things that were so simple actually
Mhm.
were very just, like, very emotionally impactful
Yeah,
and, like, just well thought out. Like, it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do a filler sentence here." It's like, "I'm gonna make you actually think about this, and
yeah,
it's just gonna be a sentence about something completely, like, super in depth that really didn't need to be in here, but I'm gonna put it in here."
I think there were only 2 that I liked enough to mark, but the other one, this isn't so much like how he phrased it, but just the fact that this was in the book. So it was Stax talking about when she was a child and her mother used to tell her, "Be careful who you give your name to. You don't know how they're going to use it." Stax had been taught that when someone said your name, what they said next had energy. What was said about you had power. And that, like, reminds me of certain groups of people or, like, indigenous tribes where they don't like their photos taken
Mhm,
because it feels like capturing that moment, like, steals a part of their soul or something
mhm.
like that. Um, and how your name has power. And I don't know, like, that just struck a chord with me for some reason.
Yeah.
Because I mean, especially in our world, we throw our name out so willy-nilly.
Mhm.
It's not anything special. It's just like, "This is my name. This is what you call me." So, I don't
Yeah.
know. I really liked that. But yes, I would definitely read by this author again. Hopefully, maybe something more along the lines of his short story collection, like some of the stories in there and what those topics were about, and not so heavy and violent like this one.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, okay, so she gave it 4 stars. Okay. Um, let me see. Okay, we can do our ratings and then I have one more question. So, overall, if you have any final thoughts, but then what did you end up rating the book?
So I'm stuck between like a 4.5 to a 5, but I think like
Oh.
I'm being too critical, like if I'm like knocking it more than a 5 because 5 stars are a book I'll think about again, a
Mhm,
book that like I was like drawn into,
mhm,
and really like a book that makes me feel something. And this is like it made me feel uncomfortable, it made me feel frustrated, it made me feel like hopeful at
mhm,
times too. And so really I'll probably go with a 5 star because otherwise the rest of it is just me just being nitpicky about things. But I can tell you I will think about this book for a long, long time, and I will reread it because I think there is so much depth to it that reading it once I wasn't able to pick it all up.
mhm.
Now, this is the part that's so ironic and kind of hysterical for me is I don't like a lot of sci-fi because it gives me anxiety. It feels too realistic. I don't like it. And
Mhm.
this is probably one of the most realistic books you've had so far. And it gave me so much stress and
Oh,
like
no.
anger. And I'm like 5 stars.
I love that. What was the book? I remember now that you say that. We were doing a live show for one of the selections, and you talked about that. You're like, "This book stressed me out so much."
Was it the one about Florida and the weather?
Oh, yes, 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 the Light Pirate.
Light Pirate.
Yes.
But I feel like all of them give me anxiety to a certain extent. But this one I was like, this almost didn't feel like sci-fi because I'm like, this is very close to what we can be. Like, this is
Yeah,
a very realistic thing. This
yeah.
was giving me like 1984 vibes where you're like, "Oh, okay." Like, how far off are we on certain themes and like the Handmaid's Tale and stuff like that. It's like some of these things, especially with the footnotes.
Mhm,
So,
mhm,
but like I said, when you asked me to, like, join from the get-go, when it said gladiators, like, prison systems, like, all that, I'm like, that stuff, like, I get so interested in just because I find, like, the stats, the history, all of that stuff super not, like, interesting, but I think they're, like, something that a lot more of us need to, like, think about and wonder how we can change it.
mhm.
And so this was, like, right up my alley, even though I could not read a book like this all the time.
Yeah,
This is one that if the author constantly wrote books like this, I'd be like, I'm only gonna pick them up every now and then because
yeah,
I can't read something this heavy all the time.
yeah, like, every other year.
Yeah, this wasn't escapism at all. This was feeling like you're up front on a battle, protesting and dealing with all of it right now, and I'm like, this was a little bit too realistic in that, but it made
Yeah,
me feel some type of way, and that's what I need in a book.
yeah. Well, I love that. I love that this is a 5-star for you. That's awesome.
Finally, we got close with a couple other ones.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, kind of like I mentioned in the beginning, objectively, yeah, this is a 4 or 5-star book just because of how well written it is, just because of the content and how well put together the plot was, and just how well things were explained and just the realness of everything. But my enjoyment, just again, because of the content, I feel like I didn't enjoy it. Even though I wanted to keep picking it back up. Because for me, I do need to enjoy my books. It does need to feel like an escape for me.
Mhm.
And I mean, I read horror books that I would never in a million years want to experience in real life,
Right.
but it's still a good
But
time. Have a
there's
good time. time.
Yeah, there's, like, a part of fictional, like,
Yeah,
to it, the aspect where it doesn't feel real.
yeah. So, um, I was, I think for the most part, thinking that my rating would be a 2 with a heavy,
Mhm,
heavy, like, side note of, "But I would totally
mhm.
recommend you read this." However, throughout our discussion tonight, and kind of, like, the realizations and the light bulbs that came to me and just talking things through more, 'cause it's
It
super
does.
helpful to talk things over and
Mhm.
help me understand it better. Um, I think I'm gonna do 3.5.
That's a
Um,
good rating.
yeah, rounded up to 4 on Goodreads, but, like, Storygraph will be 3.5.
Mhm.
So yeah, which I'm excited about.
Well, and I think this is a book that needs to be discussed too, like, I'm glad that this was a book club pick and it wasn't one that I just picked up because when I have books like this, it's like, no, you need to talk and chat and decompress on some of the things and, really hash out some of the stuff to be like, okay, this is where we're at. I'm not alone. We're all like experiencing this together. And there's so many things in this book that I think bring like great discussion points and talking points too.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see here. Okay. Feel like some sections were weaker than others, but overall the writing was extremely good.
Mhm.
Mhm. One of those important reads that I appreciated more than enjoyed. That yeah, that's a good way to say it. It's definitely an appreciation.
Mhm.
And certainly, like, I would definitely recommend people read this, especially if this is not something that you would typically read.
Yeah, and I feel like this would be a good one to read, like, in school, like, in
Mm,
college, maybe not high school, but in, like, college when you have, like, people to really discuss and break down. I feel like you could do, like, a whole class on this book, really.
definitely, yeah. That's what I love about book clubs. I always discover something I missed when I was reading. Yeah.
Well, and especially, like, when we were like, "Wait, how did that happen? What was this?"
Mhm,
And then even the connection of the beginning to the end,
mhm.
some things until you speak it out loud, you're like, "Oh, wait,
Yeah,
actually, this greater theme has come together."
yeah. 'Cause, like, yeah, if I would've just read it on my own, it's like, "Okay,
Yeah, and then
move
move
on."
on. Yep.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so a little bit of a fun question now. What are other books, movies, shows, or games that you would recommend, to people who liked this book? Or, I mean, I know you liked this book, but I guess, if somebody didn't like this book, what's something that they could read that they might like better with similar vibes?
Okay. So, I haven't read a book, like, specifically on, like, the I feel like this is such a, like, a specific type niche book
Mhm,
where it's very, like what is it called when there's, like, another niche? It's like a niche inside of a niche,
mhm,
when it comes to the, things that are talked about. I feel like I haven't read a ton, but if you're talking about, like different statistics and like the way people are treated and the indifferences that's also based on a lot of facts
mhm,
but has more of a fictional storyline cuz what the author said is all of these real stories put together to create like an overall story is Four Treasures of the Sky.
huh,
It's about a girl who um she pretends to be a boy because of the Chinese, military or the Chinese it's been, like, a couple years since I read it, but it's about how, all the things, like, girls were being sold into, prostitution and all that type of stuff, and how she traveled to America, and then how she pretended to be a boy uh, because she was so at risk otherwise, but then still as a Chinese person, how, she was treated
mhm,
by Americans. Um, but it takes place I think it's in, like, the I don't remember what era, but, like, back in history, and that one was really good, really moving if you like stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, as for, like, Gladiator, um, this is a Christian novel. Um, it's very brutal for a Christian novel, that's why, like, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's Christian," but, A Voice in the Wind by Francine Rivers
Oh, I know
is
that author.
yeah, so she wrote Redeeming Love, which I loved, and I read A Voice in the Wind in high school, and I'm like, "I don't know if I should have been reading that in high school." But, it's about there's a bunch of different stories. One girl is a slave, she's a Jewish slave, she gets sold to a Roman household. There is also a German um, warrior who is taken in and is forced to be a gladiator.
Mm,
And then there is the aristocratic like family, the Roman family who has lots of money, who has slaves, and just like their perspectives too, and how all of the characters play together.
mhm,
Um, and that has a lot more religious vibes, but even as someone who isn't super religious, I found it like it wasn't overwhelming
mhm,
message. And then if you liked the uncomfortableness of the topics that were discussed about racism and statistics, the one show I really recommend is Dear White People on Netflix. That is a show, where it follows a bunch of different Black students,
mhm,
in university and all of the different hardships that they face. That show made me feel so uncomfortable, but it made me face a lot of the privileges that I have, and to
mhm,
see how differently the struggle is for people of color.
mhm.
Um, I really like that show. That has some comedy, so it's normally, like, heavy comedy, so it has a lot more story to it, and then along with just, like, the prison systems,
Mhm,
my husband and I watched Unlocked on Netflix, and it's about an Arkansas, um, I'm not sure if it's a jail or prison, but it was a 23-hour lockdown facility that tried this experiment to have it completely open as long as the, criminals or the people, I think it was a jail. And so, like, some of these people haven't even been convicted yet, but some people have very minor offenses and some people have very, intense, things that they are not guilty yet for, but, and it's showing how if we give them, more of a chance to act like people and act like a civilized base, will they act that way? And that was enlightening of, like, what with the fact that they're locked down 23 hours a day is just crazy, and, like, how it affects the different prisoners
mhm,
and, their mentality, and that's a documentary of on Netflix, so
mhm. That sounds very interesting. I'll have to check that out.
so that was, like, a big but just to clarify, because I feel like I haven't read or seen anything like that's this specific.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think those are all great suggestions because they kinda pull from the different aspects of this book and
Mhm,
like, well, if you liked this part, then
mhm.
here's a good recommendation. So, yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Um, Goodreads says okay,
18.
1880s for that one book. That one sounded really good too. When you said Chinese pretending to be a boy in the military, I'm like, Mulan. That's what it reminded me of it.
Yeah, it's like that, except, yeah, not nearly as
Fun.
yeah.
Yeah. All I got are grad school textbooks. Fair. Yes. Okay, one here, I got it. Ugh. So there are 2 books. I don't know where the other one is. I think it's up there. So if you liked the writing style and how each of the chapters aren't super connected, they just kind of piece together to create the overall story, then I would recommend The Power by Naomi Alderman. Um, that's the one where something happens and women all of a sudden have this like electric power within themselves,
Mm,
and at any moment they can inflict pain on somebody else, and only women have this. Um, but it also like affects girls once they reach a certain age, then it comes to them. So like it all happens at one time to everybody of age, but then as girls are growing up, they do gain that power. So it's a very interesting look at how the world would be if the gender roles and power dynamics were flipped and it was
Mhm.
actually women that were the more dominating, the more formidable, the more like scarier, intimidating
Mhm.
gender. But again, very much like the writing style, the way that the book is put together, it reminded me a lot of that. If you liked and want more of specifically reading about the Black experience by a Black author, talking about racism, social injustice, I would recommend Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell. This one I loved and I tabbed a lot of it. Um, this came out earlier earlier this year or late last year. Okay, it was 24, so it came out last year. This was so good, and this does focus a lot on, like, the identity of being Black and,
Mhm.
like, how that is, like, within yourself, but basically the premise of this story is one day, all the white people basically walk into the closest body of water and drown themselves, and so the only people left are people of color, but we are focusing on a Black main character. And so there's like this cross country drive that has to happen because they have to travel somewhere else. Like he's estranged from his daughter. He was actually in prison and he got out and he's like a college professor now. And then this happens. His daughter, who is half Black because her mom is white, and her mom remarried to a white man and they had two white children. So she's alone now because her mom, her stepdad, and her two siblings went to the pond behind their house. And so she's reaching out to her father now, who again, they have a very estranged relationship. And she's like, help, I'm all alone. So he
Mhm.
like travels to her and then they have to travel down south where it's like rumored that there's like this colony of people getting together and kind of like rebuilding a form of civilization without the influence of white people. So fascinating. So again, if it's the Black experience
Mhm.
that you want to read more of and just that enlightening, powerful, moving topic, like I would so recommend this book. So those are the only two recommendations that I really have. But as we kind of talked about, there's a lot of Hunger Games vibes here.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't recommend the Hunger Games if you liked this, but if you liked the Hunger Games and you're looking for something more intense, then I
Mhm.
recommend reading this book. So kind of a reverse recommendation.
Yeah, that's really how like, cause I was telling my husband, I was like, "Yeah, I think you should read this," and then I was like, "I don't think you'll like it." And he's like, "Well, then why would I wanna read it?" I'm like, "'Cause I think it's something that needs to just be read,
Yeah.
even though it's not gonna be everyone's favorite, and it's going to be really hard for some people, but I think it's honestly, with, like, the prison systems and the mass incarnations and incarcerations, like, all that type of stuff, with the facts in there, it is very enlightening to people who aren't familiar with that type of stuff and how that's increasing so much every year. The stats about, like, children, their chances going up, and it's just, like, all the stats, like, I was even, like, Googling some because I was like, this is what I learned from this show, and that's what I learned from this show, and there are so many of them in here,
Mhm.
and then even learning about, like, the tear gas, rubber bullets, like, that type of stuff that I
That's
didn't know.
horrifying.
I knew rubber bullets could be very damaging, but I had no idea that they actually still have metal in
Metal.
them,
Yeah, that
and that
blew my mind. I was like, "Are you joking?"
and then I didn't know at the Geneva Convention, they said, "No tear gas," like, "You can't it's a war crime to use tear gas," and I'm like, "That is a common practice."
Yep,
Like,
sure is.
and so that to me was like, "Wow," and and like I said, I knew a lot of these facts, and I'm like, I need people to know that these are things that actually happened.
Mhm.
They did, what was it? Cynthia Brown was one of the cases. I watched that documentary on Netflix, I think it was, about how she was in prostitution at 16 years old and she killed a man,
Mhm.
and how she is found liable for killing him, even though she said it was self-defense, and they were like, "Well, it wasn't." And it was like, she was 16 with an older man,
That
and
is
it th
insane to me.
yeah, and so there's so many things that I knew about because of the shows I watch and the things I listen to, but, like, the fact of getting them all in a book that's not supposed to be, like, nonfiction, and it's all based on fictional stories, I was like, "Yeah, this is where that really sold it for me."
Mhm. Oh, that type of stuff just gets me so heated. Just
Yeah.
the inconsistencies of, like,
Mhm,
somebody, especially when it's a man,
mhm.
committing a not great crime. "Oh, but that was one simple mistake, and this would ruin his entire life. He's got his whole life ahead of him." And then the reverse, when it's a girl who's having that act committed upon
Mhm.
her and she defends herself, throw her away for life. Are you kidding me?
Another show that it has, like, not really anything to do with this though, that hasn't ever been renewed that really angers me is Mindhunter. Um,
I've heard of that.
so it's
I have a lot of tattoos. Or is that
no,
something else? Okay.
it's based on how the FBI learned how to profile, um, killers
Mhm,
based on the act of it,
mhm.
and it's, what is his name? He was on Glee, he was the
The
king in
Hunter?
Hamilton.
Oh.
He's one of the main characters, but it was based on how the FBI figured out, like, "Oh, our suspect probably had issues with his mom. Our suspect probably did this." And there were, like, a lot of factual things on it.
Mhm,
And to me, that's where I find, like, true crime so fascinating because one of the stats in here is that and, like, with Simon, was that he was assaulted, and
mhm,
because of that and it wa the percentage of that is, like, crazy high, like,
mhm,
people just don't sexually assault other people. It's
mhm,
people that have been tormented and had that happen to them that have then done it, and
mhm,
so, like, Mindhunter brought in a lot of those, like, stacks, and that's, like, them interviewing serial killers, like, "How did you pick this person? How did you do that?" And, like, how the FBI was, like, learning how to find people
mhm,
even though they had, like, the only evidence was, a dead person and the way they were killed.
mhm,
So, like, I found that super interesting, and, like, with stuff like this, it's like, yeah, how do you determine this? Like, what creates this criminal? What created these people to do these things? And then how do you convict them
mhm.
fairly?
Yeah.
And so that's where I think, like, this I could talk about this book forever and all the things that it talks about and the themes of it because 'cause I'm just that's stuff I find so interesting, and
Mhm,
obviously, I see, like, such a broken system where it's like,
yeah,
how do we fix it? Where do you start fixing it?
mhm.
Where do you begin? Because you can talk about that it's broken, but how do you fix it?
Exactly.
So and that's where I'm like, this would be hard to have a sequel because it's like, I don't think people have those answers, and it's just more mess and chaos a
Yeah,
sequel would be. And it would take away from the things of like, these are the facts right now.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, we do get that, like, in The Hunger Games, and we do get that in, like, The Handmaid's Tale, and so this I think I would like again, even as much as I wanna know what happens next,
Mhm.
I think I would like if this was just on its own and left as is and left you with your thoughts on the current.
And that's where I think, like, some books are meant to be, like, you sit with it. You're not supposed to have all of the answers, and this is where I'm like, this is where we're like, "Okay, this is this is where we're at, and now what do we do about it? What
Mhm.
we're not waiting for characters in a book to do something. What do we do about it?"
Yeah.
And this is why I don't sleep at night, but
Oh. Alrighty. Well, this was an amazing discussion. And to date, this has been the longest book discussion that Libronauts
Sorry.
had. No, I love it. I love when we just have there's so much to say about a book. And
Mhm.
like this was, as you said, the perfect book to have for a book club discussion because there's so many layers, there's so many things that are worthy of being focused on. So thank you for being
Thanks.
co-host. I would love to have you back again if you're willing, even though I know sci-fi stresses you out. Yes, thank you so much for joining and adding all of your thoughts. Okay, so yeah, next month is going to be, I say next month, later this month, the book choice is going to be The Poppy Fields by Nikki Erlich. This is the same author as The Measure. This book did come out just a couple months ago, I think like June or July, something like that. So it's new release about, what is it about? Like an unethical way to overcome heartache by
Mm.
basically sleeping it away. Um, I think, which is interesting because without knowing too much about this book, the poppy fields, it makes me think of the Wizard of Oz and the
Yeah, it's that's
house.
exactly as soon as you said that, I was like, "Oh, I like that."
Yeah. So I did not love the measure. So little nervous, but also I don't have like high expectations because I didn't like the measure. So I think this will be a good one.
I was
But
gonna
yeah,
say, sometimes that's what you need. Low
yes.
expectations, then
Then I'll
yeah,
probably
it's
love
just
it.
easier.
Yep. So yeah, the live show for this one will be with Lena on October 29th, 7 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody who joined during the live, is watching this later, who added their thoughts over on Fable. Be sure to follow Libronauts on Instagram and Fable to be a part of the discussions. And then once this is posted, I'll be sure to put the links for Sam and her Instagram, her booktube, and her book club as well. So yeah, thank you again, and we will talk to you next month. Well, later this month. Bye.
Bye.